Hello, Douglas V. Gibbs here, Mr. Constitution. And I was reading provisions in the infrastructure bill that's going through Congress, and I believe a Senate is yet to pass it. And of course, they waiting for Biden's signature. And the infrastructure bill has a very interesting, well, has a lot of interesting clauses, but one in particular is it targets suburbs. What it does is it disallows local governments from zoning single family only homes areas. In other words, if a zone has single family homes, it must also have high density housing. Otherwise, you will not get your funding from the federal government for community development and things like that. And the idea is, well, suburbs, owning a single family home, those types of neighborhoods, well, that's racist. Because folks that are, the poverty can't afford that. And so, and since those people tend to be people of color, you're doing what you can with single family homes to keep people of color out of your neighborhoods. And therefore, you're a bunch of racists. And therefore, the federal government is going to come in on its white horse and save the community, save the world by forcing you to accept lower wage or lower income families into the neighborhood. Of course, it's a power grab. It's an attempt to change the neighborhood so that they vote Democrat. Ultimately, that's what it is. It's also a Marxist move. And Marxism, they don't want you. Marxism doesn't want you owning a home because you're not supposed to have possessions. You're not supposed to have more than the other person. Everybody's supposed to have exactly the same. You live in apartments. You have exactly the same little room with the same little bed, with the same little table, and the same little fridge. And if you have more than that, well, then you are against the state and you are a racist because you're not willing to be equal with everybody else. That is the thinking. Now, here's the question. Where in the Constitution does it give the federal government that authority? Where in the federal Constitution does it give the federal government any authority regarding anything locally, dictating to a city or a county or a state what it can do with its neighborhoods? There is no authority. It's very unconstitutional. And I don't care if they try to use the 14th Amendment saying, well, it's, equal protection, under the law. That's equal protection under the law. Separate but equal or equal but separate, whatever the term is that they use. Well, no, that's not what it is at all. There's nothing in the law saying, well, this area is only for single family homes, saying, but if you're color, you can't buy one of those houses. You can. There's no law saying that, first of all. Second of all, once again, the federal government has no business getting involved in the interior stuff anyway. There's no authority. As for this thing, they're saying, one of the responses I got from a liberal I talked to about this, who said, well, no, the federal government's not overstepping its bounds. It's not mandating that the city or state does this. It just simply says that if you don't, you'll lose funding, but it's still voluntary. Well, where did that money come from that they're threatening to withhold from the cities and the states in the first place? And why is the states giving them that money in the first place? So we have federal intrusion into neighborhoods, and a Biden administration is trying to destroy suburbia because, see, if you force the outlying areas to also have high density housing, you make them into cities too. And everybody knows that people who live in the cities and receive gifts from the Treasury vote for the people who keep giving them gifts from the Treasury, the Democrats. And therefore, the thinking is if you turn the suburbs into city with the same people that are receiving gifts from the Treasury, well, they'll vote Democrat too. It's a push for a single party system, and it's very unconstitutional. Federal government has no business dictating to a city, a county, or a state how it sets up its housing, how it sets up its zoning. That's up to those local authorities. Federal government wasn't even created for that. Federal government was created for external issues, disputes between the states. But under the guise of racism and climate change, by the way, because also high density housing is good for climate change. Under those two emergencies, and one of them being a civil rights issue, under those guises, they're acting unconstitutionally and claiming that it isn't. That is very constitutional because they are protecting, the great white liberal saviors are riding in on their great white horse to save the minority communities from the white supremacist, racist suburbs who only wants to sell houses and not allow high density housing to keep, people of color out of their neighborhoods. Of course, of the very idea that someone of color is unable to purchase a single family house, that very idea, wouldn't that be racist? The liberals will tell you no. They're the great white saviors, don't you know? So very unconstitutional. And the infrastructure bill is filled with unconstitutional things. That's one of them, and it's targeting suburbia in that case. But that bill also includes other provisions that are actually trying to turn us into a Marxist system. And once we become that Marxist system, then what that does is that sets up what they're really after, the Great Reset. Because capitalism can't be allowed worldwide anymore. So with the Great Reset, you kill capitalism, you turn the entire world into a great big socialist utopia. What could go wrong? All right, thanks for watching. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on this channel. Thanks for watching.